Yes guys, what is up and welcome back to another brand new video I'm bringing you today for the channel. It's the second test preview, the England-Australia. Obviously you know what it is. I've been covering I covered the first of the Ashes tests and Ashes series obviously. I will be covering England's tour of New Zealand also as well. I've decided that the love that I've been getting from the series so far has made me want to continue, and I will continue to cover old England series and perhaps a little bit of the county cricket. You know, obviously a few new series that will pop up here and there on the channel. Also I've got a couple of ideas that I want to put up, and yeah, we'll see how they go. But this is, like I said, this is the second test preview, the Lord's Test match preview, which is also always notoriously known for being an absolute barnstormer of a test match. We all know how the first test match, the end of the first test match finished, and it didn't go to plan. England's start of the Ashes didn't go to plan, and obviously didn't go how they would have liked. But that was down to the fact that they were outclassed and they were outfought. I don't think they were necessarily, I know obviously they lost, but I don't think they were necessarily outplayed. I think they were just, England weren't good enough for large periods of the game. You know, and in Test cricket especially, you can't afford to have long periods where you don't go, like you're not taking wickets, and if you're getting field placings wrong, or you're getting bowlers that are bowling at the current time wrong, you will be punished. And obviously this Australian side, they are a lot more average. Yeah, they are a lot kind of more average than Australian sides that have been, and that we have been against. That's not to say again that their batsmen won't find form within the series and they won't start hurting us more. Leading on to my first point, Steve Smith. You know, we all know what happened in the first test. Scored twin hundreds, looked absolutely outstanding, and credit where credit's due. You know, you can't knock him. He's gone through what he's been through, and yeah, you know, I did give it to him a lot in the kind of first test, and the reviews, it said, you know, whatever. You can't knock him. You know, he is the modern day Don Bradman, you would say. You know, I know he's been touted, like the media have, you know, been showering him with compliments and, you know, whatever, and rightly so, because you know, he won in that test match, and there's not anyone that could say anything different. I think the fact that they were 122 for 8 in the first innings, and England were not able to knock them off for, I think they got 279 or something, or whatever it was. No, it must have been a bit more than that, but yeah, whatever they did get, it was largely down to Steve Smith and his batting skill, and batting kind of, the game management was absolutely faultless. England will have to find and execute a plan in order to get him out, because I think if you do get him in early, like we did have him in early in the first test. The Broad it was obviously rather fortunate, got Warner, LBW ended up going on to miss the stumps, whatever, but yeah, that's all happened, that's all been and gone. But if you can get, my main point is, if you can get Smith in early, and you know, obviously when the ball's moving around as it does at Lord's, it does notoriously nip and, you know, swing around corners at times. Hopefully, pitch-wise, hopefully it's been prepared a little bit more bowler friendly than the last test match was. The last test match just didn't really, the fast bowlers, there weren't much movement, if any, you know, as the test match progressed. But England, yeah, we have to find a plan, but also execute the plan of getting Steve Smith out early, because, you know, obviously if he does come in early, bowl those lines that he doesn't like. Bowl just, you know, that fourth, fifth stump line that he doesn't like. Not many test match batsmen do like that kind of, just the close enough but not close enough to warrant a leave. Just close enough to maybe get a nicking off behind or whatever, or, you know, but just formulate a plan and execute the plan to get him out, and make it obviously just a lot easier for England going forward, because we know he's going to be a massive figure throughout this Test series, and if Warner, Bancroft, Kawaja, if they all start finding form as well, it could get a hell of a lot more tricky, and it could get a lot longer for England. This whole series could end up being an absolute nightmare if England if England are unable to find ways of getting Smith out. I do emphasise the fact getting Smith out is a massive sort of not incentive. I suppose there is an incentive, but a massive wicket. You know, it's like a massive wicket to get him out, have him in early, get him out. Like I said, I know it's a lot easier for me to say than it is to do, but it's, you know, with the, I don't know, it will all depend on obviously the conditions and, you know, whatnot. But we know England have made a host of changes. There's, you know, a few changes that have been made, none more so than we've obviously lost our strike bowler, or one of the strike bowlers, Jimmy Anderson, who it was unfortunate that he come back too early from the calf injury that I think he picked up a couple of weeks before the Ashes started, and obviously that same injury has plagued him and has come back. Hopefully it's not as bad. Hopefully it's just the same injury, and it might just, you know, it'll take that much longer. But speed of recovery, obviously, Jimmy, you know, hopefully you ain't gonna be watching this, but obviously if you are, you know, speedy recovery and all that. Jofra Archer, World Cup hero, has been rewarded with a Test debut and been rewarded in replacing him as such, even though they are slightly different bowlers. Being said, Archer's coming in on red hot form within and throughout the county season and scene. He's, you know, I think he played a second 11 game for Sussex. I'm not sure who it was against, but he recorded match figures of 7 for 28 and scored a century from 55 or 56, 50 odd balls or whatever it was, which is obviously in a bid to prove his fitness as such. I think we all knew he was going to come in. He was going to be the choice, because it's the logical choice. He's the quickest, but also the most accurate, I think. Obviously, and that's not to say we've not got an abundance of alternatives. You know, I mean, there's quite a few that are waiting in the wings. I think you've got Ollie Stone, who was obviously called up. I'm not sure if he was called up as just a kind of precaution, not necessarily for Jimmy, but he was called up as perhaps a precaution just in general, just so like the bowlers that we do choose have got valid and have got, you know, really good backup. Again, you know, having Ollie Stone, Archer, obviously Jack Leach has come in for Moeen Ali, which again for me is not a massive surprise. I think, you know, it's all the changes needed to be made, because this was obviously the thing. You know, they were like, after there's been a week or so, 8 days I think, between Test matches, between the first and the second, and England would have had a lot of time together and a lot of time to rethink the strategy. They've gone with the same batting lineup, which is strange. I think obviously Joe Root batting 3. In my personal opinion, he bats better at 4. I think it's obviously down to himself. He's actually said he wants to bat 3, but I think he bats better at 4 myself. But if the players come out and said he wants to bat 3, then there's not really much else to say. He obviously feels more comfortable coming in and being able to stabilise the innings. But I personally would have stuck Joe Denley at 3. That's his county position that he plays for. I think now he plays for Kent. I know he did, and also playing at Lords, he did play for a considerable amount of his career at Middlesex, which will obviously hold him in good stead. Hopefully, hold him in good stead for playing at Lords in the second Test. Hopefully, and I really want to see him do well at Test match level in the Test match arena, as well as I do all the Test match players. Obviously, they, you know, the ones that get selected for England only, obviously. It's, you know, it is interesting, because obviously if he finds himself out for, you know, in his 2 innings that he's got coming up, if he finds himself out for cheaply, you know, out for 10 and 15 or 20 and 25 or whatever it may be. He could, you know, his place will come under scrutiny, obviously not just from myself but also from the media. And you know, you've got players like David Milan, who's playing at Middlesex in absolute, again, red hot form for Middlesex, not only in county like red ball cricket but also in white ball cricket. As we've seen Middlesex, I think currently now in their South group are, I think now they were second, but they've dropped down to fourth. They had the chance to go first on Friday, but Friday just gone, but that obviously didn't happen. Kind of staying with the batsmen that are out of form, Bairstow would be another concern, because his keeping wasn't up to scratch. It wasn't up to his probably usual standard that he holds for himself. I know from what I've heard, he is a real nice guy, and obviously, you know, holds himself and really massively overcritical of himself, but he found himself giving away and dropping catches, which obviously, well, you know the saying, catches win matches, but found himself giving away a lot of byes, you know, where categorically byes are where the wicketkeeper being at fault. It depends, well, obviously it depends on the situation and the circumstance, but usually the byes are only given because the wicketkeeper's not caught the ball or not, you know, not stopped the ball from going to the boundary. That's, you know, that's a part of cricket where it can happen, and obviously, but it tends to happen more when you're out of form and obviously not actually kind of, you know, the usual things are not feeling the same. Perhaps, you know, I don't know, perhaps he's feeling really good in himself, but just he's looking for that break in the series, and hopefully he gets it at Lords. He does like playing at Lords. I think, you know, his record speaks for itself at Lords, which is really good, because obviously we want all the players to be back to their full, and performing at their full potential, which, you know, Root has got a great record at Lords, and obviously hopefully the two openers are a lot more stable. I mean, Rory Burns, you know, going through to his first maiden Test 100, amazing, great innings, and played really well, marshalled the strike really well, because obviously he found himself batting with the tail, and then obviously, you know, and perhaps batsmen that were out of form. I think we obviously thinking along that line also is, you could say with Bairstow, the change that might be needed is that he relinquish the gloves and give them to Joss, and just go in as a specialised batsman, and go in with, like, not so much a one-dimensional way of thinking, but go in as a batsman, and not kind of talk about and not think about too much with regards to his keeping. And, you know, it's one thing is for certain, it will be interesting to see what England do with regards to, you know, his form, because obviously they have dropped Moeen Ali down to form. He was in the side as a Test match batsman or a specialised batsman, as it would go down in the books, but they found out, and they started to ride the wave that he was on. They found out he could bowl a little bit, and I think now batsmen of other teams are just exploiting and exposing him perhaps as just a part-time spinner, because that is what he is. People and the media definitely have got to realise he's not, you know, when they were comparing him to Nathan Lyon is a Test match specialised spinner. He's not a, you know, that's not a part-time part of his game. That's his own, that's what he's in the team to do. He's in the team to rip through the order, you know, and that's what he obviously did in the first Test. But the media over here have got to realise that Moeen Ali is definitely only just a part-time spinner. He's not a specialised spinner by any stretch. Yes, he's done well to get the wickets that he has, and, you know, and he does bowl very well in parts. But I mean, the reason why he was dropped goes down to form. He can't buy a run, and he can't buy a wicket either. You know, so that's why Jack Leach has come in. Leachy, you know, being in his last Test match, he scored a night watchman 92. I say a night watchman 92 because he was in as the night watchman to see off the first hour of the next morning. And it was, yeah, kind of a joy to watch at times. You know, he was playing some like real proper good shots, you know, and it was gutting to see him get out when he did, but obviously that was being him as a bowler. He's, you know, he has that kind of just he sees himself on 92 and obviously tried to maybe play one shot too many. And that's just you will always get found out if you're in an not maybe an abnormal kind of situation. But it's I just want to see England raise their standard and go for the three aspects. Obviously in cricket that are key: the bowling, the batting, and the fielding. All three were not good enough in the first test, and all three have to improve. And that's why I think they've made relevant changes. They've taken out the players that they were not maybe ready and not getting enough from. And as I mentioned about Joe Bailey, if he finds himself out cheaply in both innings, you've got David Milan, who's ready and waiting, ready and able to come in, and who knows, he might get another sort of test call up. But that's how it is. It's one of them. It is a cutthroat kind of business, cricket. You might be in red hot form for your county, but when you come to that Test match arena, you're playing against the best in the world, and not just the best in England. And it's obviously a big step up. But that being said, doesn't mean we're not going to be able to compete. It doesn't mean we're not going to be able to turn it around and draw the series level 1-1. I fully expect England to, regardless of what their record is at Lords, it's not notoriously known for being great, but it's obviously improving as the time kind of progresses, and as years go by, we are getting better at Lords. So against Australia, it's always going to be a test, and that's what we're here for. We're in this series to be tested, and we're in the series to hopefully draw level and move on to Headingley and hopefully go ahead in the series. Let me know your thoughts down below. Comment your opinion on obviously what you expect to happen at Lords, and comment your thoughts regarding what did happen at the Edgbaston Test match. So it is what it is. England find themselves 1-0 down, but it's no way by any stretch, as much as the Australians would like to say, we are still in this series and we are still competing. So I love you guys. I'll speak to you guys after the first day's play. Peace.